Welcome to Fractal Art. I'm working on some old pieces today. We're going to be going over Demonic, which is a piece that I never finished, and I believe an elliptical splits experiment, which is mostly just, seeing what I can do with elliptical splits, seeing what there is to do. There's tons to do, let me be very clear, but I want to go through and explore it a little bit further. This piece, however, just needs refining, needs touch-ups, needs direction. I never finished it because I didn't know where I was going with the piece. So over the course of the next hour, I'd like to go ahead and work on that. Again, sorry for the slight delay in stream getting started up. Sorry about the mic, but I need to get some water. Don't want to be here for 2 hours without any water. That would be terrible. Gotta hydrate. Let's see, what else did I say beforehand? Yeah, we're sticking with the fantasy music, and I am looking into getting more. It's by the same artist, Windswept, but spelled with V's instead of W's. All right, so where is this piece going? First of all, why is bipolar in here? Oh, I was using it to... Ugh, why? No. Okay, so I've got Foci as a final transform here to skew everything and sort of wrap it around? That's a very fascinating choice on my part. That probably acts much the same way as spherical would in this situation. Yeah, almost identically. Versus Mobius? Ugh. Why didn't I like Mobius? Not sure. There's a lot that can be done here. I'm starting off with the final transform. Please ignore that. Let's see. Don't need rotation. Movement's not important, but let's do a little bit of warping here. Maybe there's something interesting that I can get out of it if I change this a little bit. I suppose I should say, like, it's the curvature of the plane. Like, that's what the real and imaginary parts of C control. Specifically curvature on, like, one side of the plane. I've also moved my camera over to the rendering side, so it should be easier to see what I'm doing in the node editor, which is important if you want to follow along yourself. Let's see. Let's actually make this positive. I think that looks way cooler, actually. We kind of get like a heart-like effect, almost. That's already leagues better. I don't know why I was using Foci. It's a weird choice, in my opinion. I was probably just experimenting with it a little bit, but I don't agree with that choice. To be fair, this piece is at least a year old, so haven't done anything with it in the meantime. It is very old indeed. Okay. So, classic linear Foci, my sort of alternating strategy there with the iterators. Get rid of the Gaussian. Forget pre-Gaussians, who needs them? I know it's what's making the piece smooth, but it's not going to be for very long. Okay, I don't know why that was there. What a strange experiment. This was still back in the days when I was like, raise is the way to go, not polar. Ugh, no thank you. The advantage of polar is, actually polar 2 would be slightly better. The advantage of polar is you get a lot more of the detail in the background tends to come out, and you still get comet-like trails. Oh, sorry. No, it was polar, not polar 2. I was right. The first time. So you still get nice comet trails, it's just you get a lot more background detail as well. That said, the irony is, with this piece, I'm not sure I want more background detail. That's probably because I have an extra empty iterator generating more stars. There we go. Much better. That was affecting the weighting quite a bit. All right. So at least we have some sort of structure now, which is nice. But we're going to have to make a lot of changes, I think, before we're ready. I'm going to be constantly saving this stream, because that is a good practice to get into for anybody wanting to learn fractal art. Save early, save often. If you have the hard drive space, I suppose. If you have the memory for it, make sure to save. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I'm pretty sure all of my fractals are only probably about in the 10 to 20 gigabyte range. There are a lot of them, most unfinished. I've published like 150, but there's at least 10 times more than that in just a list of things I haven't completed yet. Pieces that were mostly experimental, or maybe, I don't know, I just didn't like where I was going with it and decided not to come back to it. There are tons of reasons. Oh, for the record, Iterator 2, this one, it's a Foci, not a linear. That's right, I put these on evens, so I remembered. So, this Foci transform controls most of the structure of the piece. It's probably the most influential iterator in the whole thing, if I had to say. How do I remember this, you ask? Because I have a good pattern for designing things that look very natural when it comes to space. And that is part of the pattern. Ooh, we could do some good alignment here, actually. See, we get some very interesting texturing if we do it like this, which I kind of like. And by kind of, I mean very much like. The texture of a lot of my Foci linear Foci, whatever you prefer, fractals tends to be similar because I like the sort of gassy, waviness that the piece comes with when you go for the sort of texture we had just a few moments ago. Whereas something a little bit flatter is more interesting. I don't know, it's different, and I like different. It's the whole point of me sort of streaming, trying different styles, is to explore what's different. Is to take a look at the possibilities in far more depth than I used to. Now it's a matter of finding a good location. I'll probably need post transforms on most of these to get them exactly where I want them. I won't worry about that for a bit, though. See, I could collapse it and we get a much less flat result, but I'm kind of interested in this whole flat approach. It's very different. And in my opinion, it actually looks a little bit more natural. Like, to a good number of nebulae out there in the world, and verisimilitude is a very big part of my design philosophy when it comes to linear Foci nebula. It's why I style them the way I do. This is almost Pillars of Creation-esque, which is optimal. Pillars of Creation, if you haven't seen the Hubble picture, is an absolutely beautiful capture of a nebula. And I think it's like my guiding light for how I design all of my nebula. That's not strictly true, but it's a very big guiding force. That style is just gorgeous. So, fun facts for those who don't know. There's very much an art to the way NASA colors all of their nebulae. There are true colored versions of the pictures they take with the telescopes, and then there are the colored versions that are done by artists that are changed. And the colored ones are actually the ones you see. They're more naturally appealing, I suppose, to the eye. The true color that's captured by the Hubble Space Telescope isn't nearly as appealing. And that's why they change them. It's good for publicity. That is part of the reason. I think there's an argument, if I'm not mistaken, that it actually better represents like how the human eye would perceive it versus what the Hubble, versus what like the telescopes in space capture. But I'd have to read up on that a little bit more. That much I can tell you for certain, though. I could add a bit of texturing if I rescaled this smaller. Not that small, like this small. Looks a little too messy. All right. Let's go ahead and make this a Mobius. Why not? That's generally my philosophy. why not make it a Mobius if it's a linear? Might as well start calling them Mobius Foci Nebula at this point. What I'm doing is I'm changing where the linear positions are for those transforms, because they're going to mostly affect where the detailing is inside of the nebula. So we're making small changes to these parameters in the hopes that we get a little bit more detailing without sacrificing this sort of flattened approach to the coloration and texture, I suppose. Not really coloration, though I suppose that's technically a side effect, though not really what I was going for. It's gonna be too much. No, I don't think there's any point in changing that if I'm just gonna do the real part of it as well. So fun story today, completely unrelated to anything about fractals or all that fun stuff. But today at work, I had to do some physics unexpectedly. We're working with an animation library, and it's a piece of work, let me tell you. They've got, so the nature of the animation library, actually let me preface this with what I was doing. So my goal was very simple. I was creating like a tutorial style page, you know, teaching people how to use the application I was working on. And while working on it, I realized it'd be a great idea if I had some sort of nice little animation. So I had a series of independent, we'll just call them like N squares, right? And what I wanted to do was have it basically like light up one of them, then light up another, then light up another, all in sequence, and then have it sort of be like a periodic wave. So like you got to the end and it would sort of already be starting on the next one and sort of continue in a nice flow, right? Except what I discovered was that the animation library doesn't actually support phase shifting. It doesn't support a delay on the animations, like an initial delay on whatever animation you want to play effectively. It does, however, support delays in between the animations, like in between each animation. So effectively, think of like an absolute value of a triangle wave. And instead of like immediately going to like the next triangle in the part of the wave, it would just be 0 for a portion of that time, instead of like shifting the wave over, you know, by some phase. And I was like, this is baffling. But even stranger, they have a method. They have a method of generating animations that uses dampened harmonic oscillators. I kid you not. You can specify a mass for the animation to have, and it's like spring coefficient and a whole bunch of other stuff. And you can make like harmonic motion out of that. But there's still no phase shift. I checked. It's bizarre. It's really strange. So that was part of my day today. I was desperately trying to figure out like equations, seeing if I could put together something and still manipulate the library into giving me what I wanted, and that didn't turn out to be possible at all. That was quite unfortunate. Oh, nope, sorry, that needs to be 1. Anyway, it was a fun day. Alright, so let's take a look here. I'm already doing some framing in advance, you know, just getting it into the right position. Believe me, that's really an important part of presentation when it comes to fractals. It's just making sure you have it in the right place. I think this structure is a decent bit better. I like it more, that's for sure. I could zoom in a little bit further, but I'm worried about losing this piece of it. I want all of these parts to sort of be visible, and I'm not quite sure where the optimal framing is. Not that we're anywhere close to done. I'm probably going to make quite a few changes. Let's see. Of course, I could go ahead and change a good number of these transforms, or better yet, go ahead and add some post transforms. Post Mobius is often useful. Post spherical might be better though. Less easy to manipulate, but sometimes gives some really nice results. The problem is, I'm not sure what I want to do in terms of spread, if that's anything I really need to be worrying about right now. Again, if I want to keep the nice, neat sort of little flattened approach to the texture that we're working with right now, changing the spread's going to really affect that quite a bit, so probably not here, at the very least. The problem is, like, so the good thing about spherical, as a post-transform, or just spherical in general for Nebulae, is it gives you a very traditional approach to Nebulae. I'm trying to think of how to say that. In the fractal art world, there is a very well-established way to make space fractals, and that tends to be a lot of spherical. I didn't like that, so my space fractals tend to be mostly Mobius and Foci, which I think gives a much better, more realistic feeling to the piece. Yeah, let's go ahead and spread this out a little bit more though. I love creating gaps in Nebulae, and that's why spreading it out with a Mobius post-transform is often a nice idea. Oop. It's useful for that very purpose, but you gotta be careful. It's easy to go too far, and then you get things that lack structure at all. Finding that balance is key with Nebula in particular. You want to both have good structure and make it feel soft, but make sure that you don't lose like the value of like hard edges, I suppose I would say. Like, you'll notice that there are soft fades in here. It's a result of the light and the colors all meshing together, but the actual parts of the nebula have hard edges. It guides the structure without losing a sort of, I don't know. I want to say, I keep wanting to use terms that are used to describe actual nebula, but it's very true. Like, you want everything to sort of blend and flow in a nebula while still having a solid structure for whoever's looking at it to focus on. In this case, we have it. We have like patterns and edges and contouring, but everything still sort of blends together nicely. I actually think it might blend together a little bit too much at the moment, but we'll figure that out. This, for instance, everything's just meshed. You lose a lot of the cool gap-like structure that you had here previously. Some people like that. I do not. I'm very much against it. See, we could shift this back a little bit. I'm really not convinced that anything's necessary with this part. Anything dramatic, at least. Because sure, we could increase the gap, but I don't know. It feels like it's a bit too much if I do. Yeah, and collapsing it's not. Collapsing is not a good idea at the moment, so we'll leave it as is, I guess. Just a slight change, just to open this up a little bit more. And then continue taking a look at the rest of it. Yeah, I like where the final transform is. No questions there. I am using Gaussian here. Let's take that out. Pre-Gaussian, no need for you. And spherical, of course it would be. Here's a really easy way to add detail. Most of the time, your first iterator is going to have a single transform in a linear, or I suppose in the nebula in general. This is a very common trick. It's just a good way to make the style work. But a good way to add detail would be to rescale the spherical transform to something smaller, which I think adds some cool detail down there. But again, not convinced. I could go ahead and replace this with something like Foci, which will act similarly, but not quite the same. I think it might work a little bit better, honestly. I tend to like what Foci does, which is why I use it so frequently for this style. That said, I think it makes things a little bit too soft. Yeah. All right. It's a tad messy, but we're gonna fix that up, don't you worry. Gonna take a look at the selector weights, selection weights, I suppose I should be more precise. Gonna see where we can get better balance. Again, you don't want too much detail, but you don't want too much blending, too much softness, for lack of a better way of terming it. So we can bring out parts here. I think I'm fine with leaving that as sort of like part of the background, so having it on a default weight's not a bad idea. All the weights are relative, for the record, because that's how the Chaos game is played. So do bear that in mind when working on your own pieces. But the question is, do I want the highlight to be uniform or more focused on the top? I'm leaning towards uniform, at least for the moment. Oh, we should need it on iterator 6. I definitely like this blue region being brighter. I think it's one of the focal points of the piece and deserves a lot of focus. That said, I am not convinced those edges do. I think they just make things a little bit too messy. We could move the focus out a little bit. I think there is fine. I say focus, I do mean like essentially where the lighting guides the viewer's eye. Let's get rid of that there. We need this to be probably around 3. Oh, yes. Oh, goodness, yes. Why did I ever turn that off? Probably during an old experimentation phase. I like that significantly more. I'm focusing mostly on this blue region at the moment, which I think is going to become the focus of the piece, the highlight. Very shortly. Oh, we could have that detailing there, or we could just not. I actually think it works a little bit better with the detailing. Now that we're beginning to change what the fractal really looks like. Okay, so I see that shifting the lighting down a little bit. Oh yeah, because I'm an iterator 1, not iterator 0. I was surprised for a moment because I was like, that's not what it should be doing. Again, not sure I want to unify everything. We could bring this selector weight up a little bit, and that's gonna make all regions of the piece a little bit brighter. I am not convinced that's a good idea. I think having some of it in darkness is a better approach. So I think maybe leaving a little bit of the detailing in while having the rest sort of fade out is probably a good idea. I'll leave that on 2. I could turn that off, but that exposes too much of the detailing around regions that aren't the blue area. But it cleans up the blue area quite nicely. Let's leave it off for now and see if we can clean up the rest of it with a little bit more effort. Let's actually go ahead and turn on all the stars everywhere. Did I not change iterator 1? Hello? Seems pretty crucial. Why wouldn't I have done that? I like this music. Me too. It's by an artist called Windswept, but spelled with 2 V's instead of 2 W's. Why am I tempted to give this a base weight of 0? Seriously? Like, not use it at all? No, this looks way better. Okay. Let's reduce that background detailing a little bit. I think 0.5 is enough, maybe lower. I'm probably going to change its position to like the pre-affine and stuff, because I'm not convinced I like it. Same with this like echo of red coming off of the blue. I think it looks cool here, but not nearly as good as it could be. Iterator 2, is it 0? Why? It flattens the piece. And I think flattening the piece is a good idea at the moment. Now the question is, how flat do we want flat to be? And I'm thinking, at the moment, middling values. Oh, no, get rid of that entirely, I think. Yeah, no, I don't like what that does. I think that it's too much detail. Oh, I skipped iterator 1, that's what it was. I was like, that's weird, why did I do that? If you're tempted to give something a base weight of 0, it's probably not doing what you want for the piece. In this case, I think that's true. Let's get us a base weight of like 0.2. This is what, iterator 5? Yeah. What can you do better? Question is, where do I need you? Where do you contribute most? Sort of mixing in with everything else, maybe? Sort of, that doesn't look terrible. I do like the idea of highlighting that a little bit. This is a sort of in-between area. It's like barely visible. Yeah, I really don't think this iterator is doing a ton to contribute for the piece, honestly. If I can adjust all of these values and see pretty much no marketable difference, it's not doing enough for the piece. And should either be axed or changed. Like, I don't think this detailing is enough to warrant its existence. At least not in its current position. I could use it to sort of tune up some of the other red detailing over here. And that would be a valid use. Like, keeping it here so it aligns with the edges here and sort of fills in some detailing there. That's okay. This is maybe a little bit too messy, but this is coming along nicely, so half of it's there, I'd say. I would say we're getting there. We could also use it for highlighting like that. Sort of mix them together. It's not a bad idea. Not sure if I like it better or worse. I don't know, I like the connectivity there, honestly. And then we just got some polar, a little bit of polar action. Let's see, what that base weight is not as high as I'd put it normally. First of all, we're probably going to want crackle here as well. There we go. We get some nice movement with the stars. Another good reason to use polar. Also a good example of functional composition. This would not happen if crackle was first in the iterator. I kind of like the blur effect. I'm not sure if I'm completely sold on it. Let me take a look at rays. Well, actually, I suppose, no, in this case it would happen. It would still be the same, I think. Because both cases we're looking at are symmetric, I think. But that's not always true. Actually, I think rays might be slightly better. just gotta find the right value for it. Like, there's some cool curvature. I just feel like the stars aren't being weighted heavily enough. So I might, but I can't amp up this without it spreading out too much. So maybe back to polar. Kind of like this motion better anyway. All right. Let's take a look. What's next on the list? So we have a nice structure. We have stars sort of filling in the details here. The stars are in some very limited areas at the moment, but I think we're going to be able to work with this at least decently well. I might spread them out a little bit more with a post-transform. Tempted to anyway. In fact, let's do it. Why not? Because the stars here don't do much. The stars here don't do much. It's this main field here that really gives the piece a sense of motion. And that's the crucial part of this. That's the main goal of adding a comet-like trail to these stars to begin with. It's key that we take a look at. It's a key that we put in a sense of motion. I wouldn't say it's key for every piece, but I think it's a valuable aspect of like space pieces because it really gives it life. Really gives it something extra. I don't know. Sometimes it's good for a piece to be still, but I like throwing in comets everywhere, so it's a post-define, not a post-transform. Let's go ahead and reposition these a little bit. I might spread them out. I might... Yeah, I kind of like the idea of spreading them out at least a little bit. Maybe not. Because we could condense these into little pockets. It gets rid of the motion, which is what I'm worried about. Same with scaling them up. I'm also worried about losing motion. Because the polar transform is set pretty low at the moment. So we're really not getting as much as we could out of the tails. But I also don't want to blur it too much. You know, there's a natural blur that comes from using polar as a transform here. Let's see if I can curve it a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. The good thing here, for the record, is that it's coming out of the corner, which is like a natural place where where the viewer's eye is going to look, right? The four corners are good places to introduce motion because it feels slightly more natural because your bounding box is a rectangle, right? The eye is drawn to the edges of that rectangle, especially the corners. Something, see really good measures of intensity gradient in computer vision. Or really good key points on objects, I suppose that's also true. Corners are valuable. Don't underestimate them. Yeah, all right. That's okay for now. We could put this all cattywampus. Basically, we just did a rotation on them. Just a little bit. So they're still coming out from here, but there's a little bit more motion that sort of drags them up from here as well. I think it looks better. All right, so... what's next? Let's go ahead and save this version. Because I think it's coming along. Should probably mess around a little bit with the preaffines. Haven't done a ton of that today. See if we can get some really nice positioning. Really good changes to the structure. We can soften that out a little bit. Gotta be careful with this one. That really changes the feeling of it, though. I'm not sure I like that. Because, like, we could make it more wavy, but I don't think that really looks good. No. Return to where you were. Let's go ahead and make sure to apply before curves. For some reason, undoing anything causes it to not keep the application before curves. No idea why. It's really unfortunate. I like it being condensed. The highlighting's really good on that part of the fractal. I think we can reposition this actually and get a really interesting change in structure. Like, sure, we could collapse it here, and that's fine and dandy, but there are other options. We could hopefully maybe get it to align. That's a tricky one. Oh no, not 145. Oh goodness, we're not we're not that far ahead. 15, thank you very much. so. Most mods I've ever made for one piece. Let's see. I think that would be near 100 or something? That sounds about right. I definitely remember one with 80 or about 80. Probably higher. At that point, it was basically like 10 different pieces, but that's how it goes sometimes. We have a very interesting piece going here at the moment. Very different texture than I normally employ. See if we can round that out a little bit more too. It'd be fun to see an animation where each frame is the next mod. You can actually do animations in Chaotica, and you can change a whole bunch of stuff and generate like an animated version of the fractal. I have done this before. I have actually set some of my older pieces to music as animations, but I haven't done that in a long time. It's something that I should get back into. I think it'd be fun to do an animation here on stream one day. Could be quite enjoyable. All right. I'm just not completely sold on this upper region over here, but I think that's mostly a factor of color and less a factor of style. Because I think we have a pretty interesting structure here. I don't know. Because, like, what if I made this spherical, right? Gave us a little bit of different texturing. But that's just too soft, which is why I avoid using spherical in the first place. Like, this is a cool effect, but it's extremely soft. I think it looks better in this upper region for sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and save it. But we've lost a good portion of the detailing that was once there. can align this a little bit better. Let's see. Don't really know why I'm experimenting with this version instead of other ones, but we're gonna go with it. Maybe I can get some of the detail back and get spherical to work here instead of Foci. I'm just not thoroughly convinced that it's a good idea. All right. I know I've been sort of quiet throughout this sort of experimentation process with the additional style, but it's mostly so I could go a little bit more quickly. You know, just take a look through a whole bunch of different stuff. Make fast adjustments, see where they let us. Not sure I like it, but I'm going to save it anyway. This will be mod 17. Sort of an interesting piece. I don't know if I like the texturing. It looks too... I don't know, just uninteresting. I'm spending a little bit longer on this piece than the elliptical split, because the elliptical split is more, I don't know. Well, no, actually I know why I'm spending longer on this piece. I'm just really interested to see what sort of texturing on the actual nebula is most appealing. This is a little bit more aggressive, but it's not a bad approach. All right, so see what else we can do. Maybe I can get something out of you yet. I don't know if I just don't know if I like filling in that empty space. Sometimes it's good to have that empty space. And I feel like it does have a purpose. So I'm just gonna move it up here for a little bit and basically give more detailing to this section. is a maybe. This is a possibly interesting. I don't know. It's mostly the texturing, and I guess some of the empty space that's not super appealing to me at the moment. Maybe it's the color. Yeah, I think with some new colors it could really be interesting. I'll probably work on that a little bit off stream. I should, however, go ahead and move into one of the elliptical split experiments. Mod 14. Which one was I working on here? This one. All right. World editor. All right, so we're going to do this for the next hour. So we were just working on a nice linear Foci, or I suppose Mobius Foci nebula. It was a lot of fun. It was interesting. We did experiment with a variety of different styles and textures, I suppose, within the nebula itself. I'm probably going to tweak it a little bit more, but not too terribly much. Mostly a color thing, if I had to guess. And then I will render it later. For now, however, I'm going to move into the world of elliptical splits and follow a more geometric style, which will hopefully be appealing to a good portion of you. I think it's a very pretty style. It's very simple. You have an elliptical transform and you have a split transform, and that governs most of it. I am using Julia as the final transform here, which is what's giving us this little center and then the split into two segments. I could switch this up to Julian and of course increase this to whatever value I wanted. Remember, our old Julian trick for getting rid of the center is to increase the distance to whatever your power is. We could get some cool results that way, but who likes, you know, symmetry? We're not after symmetry today. I honestly think it tends to look worse in fractal art pieces anyway. So, not that, this. I was doing a little bit of experimentation yesterday, but I didn't get terribly far. So, I'm gonna look into maybe applying a sort of moon-like structure here. Yeah, let's do that for the moment. What is that? It is an elliptical split. So it is composed predominantly of an elliptical transform, a splits transform, and then in here I've got some radial blurs for some interesting effects, though I think... No, I take it back. I need that as a pre-transform. And just some Foci for some detailing and some spherical as well. It's a type of fractal art if you've never done fractal art before. Fractal art is a type of art that you make out of math, basically. So these are transforms. They are iterators, I suppose I should say. They're vectors that you can manipulate on this technically infinite plane. And each of these iterators has associated transforms. And these transforms are what give shape to the fractal. Is that what you do for a living? No. This is a hobby. No, I'm a computer scientist for a living. Software development. I'm still in college, really. I've got one more year before I graduate, but that's what I'm going to end up doing. Let's get rid of the radial blur there. It's not super necessary, and I like the extra detail. This particular coloring makes it look very sigil-esque. Sigil-esque. It's a very interesting description of it. Oh, why is this a linear transformation? No. Mobius all the way. Always. Just replace all of your linears with Mobius, and I think you'll be happier. Life lessons, honestly. Then again, I don't know if... So the problem with elliptical splits like this is that they're so particular about, like, positioning, right? Again, another example of a fractal that can go terribly wrong if you position it poorly or overextend certain aspects of the transform. In this case, the D parameter shouldn't be too troublesome, though the rest of them are. Yeah, we're effectively, the only scaling we get here is as a linear, which is a little unfortunate. I was hoping we might get something better if I didn't scale it quite like that, but so be it. Sometimes that's just what you gotta do. I'll take that as a 1 for right now. And then I've got some stars aligned on boundaries here. I have multiple elliptics for additional... No, what is this elliptic doing? Why is it here? Why is it not something like a Foci? I did have Foci here at one point. Huh. Really interesting. I think that's a much sharper detailing though, and I think I like it better because of that. What am I doing? I am changing the parameters on these transforms for the iterators in order to adjust the structure. We're making art right now, and I'm sort of exploring what we can do with this style. So what I'm doing with each of these iterators is they have transforms that I can change, and I am making adjustments to those transforms. This is going to be mod 33, or version 33. And so by changing those values, we get different results. For instance, this Foci transform looks like this. You can sort of see it here. It's a graphical depiction of the math behind it, of the mathematical equation. And what we are doing is we are changing the value of that equation, like the fundamental value, in order to get different structural results. So I do have spherical here, I do have Foci, and I do have splits. Of course, I would have additional Foci with a pre-blur, because that's just my thing. All right. We could change the Foci value and actually move up the stars a little bit, but if we do that too much, it's going to reduce what we can see. Or, correction, it will make the interior of this little pocket a little bit too dark. So, I am not really looking to do that at the moment. We could make it slightly darker, you know, create a little bit more contrast. I don't think it's a terrible idea. Yeah, I think a little bit more contrast does it a lot of good. Again, we're just using a Mobius transformation here as the final transform, so we won't get too much in the way of crazy nonsense happening, you know, in terms of how we're warping the final structure. Elliptic value. No, I really needed that at 1, actually, because the splits are set to 1 on the X value. Yep. So we're going to have to leave that as is. No fancy changes for us there, not unless I scale both of them, which basically negates any changes we would have gotten anyway. Ah, I was using spherical here instead of Foci. Let's change that up. So instead, now we get sort of a fang-like structure. Or a fang-like structure if I were to increase the value of Foci here sufficiently high, which is kind of a cool effect. But at the same time, I really like it sort of blending in the interior of the circle. The problem is it doesn't work as well as spherical here because the transform is elongated on the x-axis by default. Like if we're thinking about a visual descriptor of it. So This is kind of cool, but I did actually really like spherical a lot more here. We could increase the value of spherical and sort of get slightly more detail, a semi-similar structure. I wouldn't say completely similar, but it does look better. It sticks to the edges, which is the important part. Again, the more we increase Foci, the more contrast we have in the ridges, which is a key point. Oh, 15 is a bit too high though. Which is a key point for generating additional detail. Or, I suppose, making it look slightly deeper. Not necessarily more detail. Though that's sort of an aspect of it because the Foci stars line up along the edges. So we could set it to 2, but I'm worried that's a little bit too much. I'm not sure. I'll leave it at 2 for now, and we'll see where we go. Wow, that is incredibly large. Why did I do that? Oh, to emphasize the Foci. Wow, did I really need to emphasize it that much? Dang, alright. Guess I did. Oh, and I've changed the positioning of the final transform too in this. I don't normally do that. Very interesting design choice on my part. Again, this is a very old piece. One that I never quite completed. Now that needs to be aligned at the origin. Otherwise we move off of the boundary. I should check to see, this one's the spherical, so it has a little bit of wiggle room to move around. The elliptical and the splits, on the other hand, do not. They are not free to quite as much. Actually, I like that better. Huh. Surprising. Of course, I might want to change this up from spherical to be something completely different. If we're going to get a really interesting effect, say something like Julian. Let's change that power back to 1. Let's see, we're gonna need this at a reasonably... Oh, actually, we needed a much higher value than I anticipated. I was hoping to get, like, interesting convergence here, but I think the value of that has to be way too high to actually permit it. What about hemisphere? If I set that up to a high enough value, again, we have to set it up to something high enough that it fills in this crescent while also giving us detailing in between, which is why spherical is a good option. But I wanted to test out a couple of alternatives just to see if there's anything of interest. That said, not really sure there is. I could try Looney, maybe? We could get a cool little bubble effect, perhaps? No, it collapses too quickly. What would be another option? Not sure. Spherical's a really good choice. Alternatives would be... Not sure. Not sure what a good alternative would be here because it has to fill in properly. Spherical's very good at that. By definition of the transform. I could throw in another elliptic, but I don't think that's going to do too much good. We'd spread out, sure, and we wouldn't fall apart. But it's too messy. Oh, that's arc sign. Wait, what? Hello? Yeah, but it becomes too messy too quickly, which is why spherical is such a good option here. It's not super messy, and it aligns at the boundaries, gives you nice fringing. Yeah, not many alternatives for that one. All right, well, this moon structure is kind of cool, but let's try something else. Why not? Let's get off of this single little split here and maybe hyper-tile it or something? I'm not sure this is really worth tiling, though. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Because the whole thing just can't be tiled very nicely. But we could... Again, Julian would give us a whole bunch of additional parts of this to work with. What are good other final transforms for an elliptical split? The side bits, lasers. Yeah, no, it's kind of a cool effect. That's mostly a result of what the Foci is doing here in the piece. It's quite fun. We could do some scry stuff, but that's going to collapse it into too small a box. Just kind of warps the hell out of it and doesn't make it look very cool. We could get any polygon we want, though. Not that that really matters. Let's get a nice little heptagon. Again, not super useful. That's just curious, I guess. Trying to think about what doesn't make this a mess as a final transform, but still gives us some really cool curvature. Any of the trigonometric functions might be pretty good at that. But there's not much structure left there if we do a cotangent. I do like that a little bit more. Not sure I like the structure being visible, like the actual tangent part of it, but this is pretty cool. This is my favorite part of the Fractal stream. Wild speculation of what it vaguely looks like. Incredible. Yeah, I like the way it swirls now too, which is why I chose tan H. Basically does the inverse thing and collapses it all, which is a pretty cool choice. I think the swirling structure is nice. We just need to make sure that the rest of the fractal really works alongside it quite nicely. Now that's the challenge. The challenge. All right. Did you just call it tan H? Yes. That's a perfectly fine way of referring to it. Tanch? No. What? Nonsense. It's tan H. Can't sounds like you're trying to clench something. Now we could align this a little bit more. Try to find a good position where focusing in on each of the individual curves inside is I don't know. That aligns it on the boundary nicely, which looks good. Or it aligns it on part of the boundary, at least. Shouldn't change that. Or that one. Unless I want the whole thing to fall apart. Wow, that is super sensitive. Holy cow. Normally nothing's that sensitive to just regular old C, but I guess here we are. No, nothing's changing there. No way. Wow, that is an effect of 0.01 on the imaginary part of D, ladies and gentlemen, and that is how much strength it has. It's kind of nuts. All right, I did not expect nearly that much of an effect. Very surprised, honestly. I don't think spherical's anything else is going to replace the spherical there unless I went for a Foci, but eh. We should do more tiles. That's what I should do. I should do more tile logs on this stream at some point. I think it'd be fun. So why radial blur? Why did I go for radial blur instead of like a Gaussian? Oh. Oh, I see now. Yeah, that's a good point. The focused part of the blur is actually very important now that I think about it a little bit more. I wonder if lens would do something. Well, lens doesn't actually blur, it's just a lensing effect. So that doesn't quite qualify. A Gaussian on its own wouldn't do too much. We could throw in a sine blur, and I wonder if that would work well if I amped up the power, maybe? Oh no, there's no good place for it to mesh in. Nope, radial blur it is. No, radial Gaussian. Oh, that's not a radial blur. Works just as well, though. I need it at an angle of 0, and I guess a value of 1 is fine. Anything higher and... Interesting. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, well, leave it as is. Radial Gaussian, radial blur. I actually don't know what the difference is. One's probably a more naive approach. Probably faster to render than a Gaussian. We could work on the splits a little bit, maybe separate them out. Oh, but I suppose with this final transform, that's not going to work too well, is it? No, it won't, not at all. And sure, I could split that out a little bit there, but that looks, I don't know. I think it looks better aligned than it does non-aligned. Like, if we're separating out the boundary, I don't know, I don't like it as much. All right, so I got Foci here. What if I replace that with spherical? Oh, it gets smoother. That's true. And I could focus that smoothness in a little bit. liked it when it wasn't as smooth. Go back to Foci. Foci at 2. Actually, maybe I didn't. Take it back. Now that I'm looking at it side by side effectively. I don't know. The internal smoothness is kind of nice. Because, like, if I set this up to a very high value, we get smoothing right where we want it, you know? Just kind of nice. Yeah, we're gonna leave it as a spherical. A very high spherical, to be fair, but still a spherical. Oh, I gotta be really careful about selection weights here, don't I? Tanch, but its CH is in LaTeX, so tanks. Recently watched gameplay of Journey, and the Fractal reminds you of the flying carpet. Good choice in game. Journey's a very pretty game. Speaking of games, I am looking for the next game to play in our Sunday Let's Play series, and I don't know what I want it to be yet. I have a couple of options on the table. The community game day, I think while I'm deciding, we might just do some Sea of Thieves. Next Sunday, I'm going to be doing Microsoft Flight Simulator, though, because the new version for 2020 comes out on the 18th. So we're going to have some fun with that. What if I streamed nothing but Microsoft Flight Simulator for the rest of my life? Sounds like it might be fun. I'm not, for the record. I would grow so tired of it so quickly. We're just gonna have a little fun with it because it's coming out, and I enjoyed Microsoft Flight Simulator so much as a kid. It was a lot of fun, and I don't know, it's a simple pleasure, you know? It's a very simple game, and it's nevertheless quite enjoyable. And of course we're gonna play it the moment it comes out. That'll be on either Saturday or Sunday. Tomorrow for Cluster Truck, which is what we're gonna do for the community game day, because we didn't defeat the devil. We need to do that. That's my plan. And then I don't know how much of that game there is left, but we might switch over to like Sea of Thieves or something. I haven't decided yet. Or maybe Dead Cells. We could experiment with the Twitch integration there. Not sure. Yeah, I used to be really, really good at Dead Cells back in the day. But that was a while ago. What do I want to change here? Like, genuine question. The overarching shape is fine. I honestly want to change the internal part of this. Which would be what? The spherical here? No, that's controlling the gradient approach. This spherical here. Yeah, this is the one. So let's say we did something else. Something random. Okay, maybe not quite that random. Let's choose something a little bit more intelligent. Right, I remember. Okay, what if we threw on a post transform I do in fact enjoy streaming things, a variety of things. Which is why I'm not going to stream Microsoft Flight Simulator exclusively for the rest of my life. We'll have a nice little stream when it comes out. I think that's probably the only time we'll play it, if I'm being honest. I'd be very surprised if for any reason we came back to the game. There's really not much point. Like, it'll be enjoyable to play for that one stream, and then I'll be like, all right, cool. I think that's all the stream time that game really needs. No. Maybe, actually. Go back. To like 3.5. No, just keep it at 3. Align in the boundary with negative 0.1. Technically it's not aligning the boundary. It just kind of looks slightly better. What is this? It's a linear. Why is it here? Go away. Go away, you useless identity transformation. Yeah. But again, if you guys have any suggestions for what our new Sunday Let's Play stream should be, let me know in the Discord. That would be great. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I only have like 2 main options at the moment, and I'd like to explore lots of alternatives. It's a very interesting view. Yeah, I don't like this nearly as much, actually. I wanted to change the internal part, but we've lost so much of what made it interesting. Yep, farewell to the Mobius. Maybe I could try something different for a post-transform. Something like spherical. It would have to be a very high level of spherical, though, in order to fill in properly. So we could try... Let's try something a little more wild. We definitely get a different shape, we just get a little bit too much clutter, I think, from this approach. Like, it's kind of cool, but it's too empty, which is the main problem with it. We could do a scry, though. A scry is sort of like an inverse effect, so if we set this to something... Huh. No, it's only going to collapse it, isn't it? Again, too empty. Will be an alternative. What about an eyefish? Let's bring this back up and just start it over. I need to get a little bit more music for these streams. What if I did an eyefish on the elliptical? Like, let's throw on another transform here. Warp it a little bit. Maybe we'll get something interesting. Yeah, like that. That's what I was looking for. A little bit more spacing because of how we're warping the split. Technically, this is on the elliptic, but the split and the elliptic work together so tightly, so meshed that we get both. All right, so let's go ahead and throw on another eyefish. Might be a bit too much eyefish, but I think it's actually going to change the internal part in a way that will be interesting. Okay, maybe not quite that much. Might have overestimated its value a little bit. We could try something a little bit more drastic. I'm just gonna choose something drastic, which would be this, for instance. Okay, maybe not quite that drastic. All right, let's go for a Mobius. Significantly non-drastic. All right. We could reposition things a little bit better with a Mobius. Maybe get a slightly nicer effect inside the fractal itself, inside the main body. Part of me's tempted to do a Skyrim stream, because that's what the kids are into nowadays, right? Skyrim. It'd be modded with like 60 different things, but it's technically still Skyrim. No, I don't think I actually would. It's not a game that really has a ton of value, I think, for stream anymore. Or at all, ever. Well, okay, that's not true. Maybe when it came out. But, like, it's been done to death at this point. There's the nostalgia factor, but I think that's more good for, you know, something you do in your own time. I do have a ton of games that I haven't gone through, which would be some fun titles that we could explore. Yeah, we need that at a very high value. Or switch it to Foci, either way. It's a very small Foci for a very negligible impact at this point. Iterator 6, and then this one for the stars. Should probably turn this into a crackle instead of just an empty transform. Get a little bit more control that way. Let's leave this at 1. Let's leave scale at 0. There we go. We fill in a little bit more nicely that way. Cell size can be... I mean, a cell size of 1 is fine. Anything smaller is maybe too much. In fact, I'd say a cell size of like 2 would be good. You know, a very large cell size would probably be in our best interests. Ooh, no distortion though, because that's gonna drag so much with it. Woohoo, okay, never mind. Well, we're keeping it as crackle. We could get rid of its effect on certain iterators, and then we might be able to mitigate that fun little effect. Just not sure which one it is, actually. Could find out, but I don't think it's worth our time. I think just continuing to work with this is probably in our better interests. Really no place to move anything, because I want it all aligned at the boundary nicely. Now that's just for... There's no place to move this without it breaking. Again, it all has to be aligned. Sorry, I said aligned at the boundary. I meant aligned at the origin. Otherwise, everything just falls apart, doesn't it? That doesn't leave us with a lot of interesting structural choices here, now does it? I could create some sort of container-like structure and do something interesting with it that way. Or I could throw away these sphericals in exchange for something. What is that something that I'd be looking for, though? I'm just not sure there's much that can replace it. It's my main concern. Change the frequency up to be something large but not overlapping. It's basically just gonna reduce it to one dimension. It's not interesting. It's not interesting at all. Alright, so let's move this to scry. Oh wait, we tried scry here, that's right. Didn't work as well as I'd hoped. Sort of an inverse spherical-esque thing. Not completely, but sort of. Not really at all, actually, come to think of it. Now that I'm thinking about its effects. Just because you have a boundary bubble. Anyway, not important. This is okay. Again, very messy on the inside. What we could do to fix that is throw in some pre-Gaussians and it would just sort of all fade away. So what we would do here is I'd throw in a little Gaussian transform, fade the interior. Wow, Gaussian looks terrible here. Oh, damn, alright. Sign blur it is. Sign blur is worse. Oh, because it's stuck in its own little bubble, that's right. Depth blur? Problem is the weird star effect. We can get rid of that by changing the depth blur power to 1, though. That at least gives us some motion inside, which is not bad. I can also set that up really high. Even get it to extend a little bit further. Let's leave it at 1 and the radius at 2, maybe? Gives us some cool motion. I'm not sure I like these boundaries, though. I might go back and look at the spherical, or not the spherical, the split transform here, which is being altered by Mobius, to be fair, so even if I try to realign that, it's not going to do as much good, is it? That split on Y did not have the anticipated result, but that's because we've warped the canvas so heavily that I have no clue what that was going to do. Okay. Let's go ahead and save this one before I change something in a way I don't like. But let's go ahead and explore this a little bit. We've got 10 minutes. We got time. This is looking spherical plant-esque, which is not what I anticipated doing today. Yet here we are. That's only going to change the internal part of it. That's pretty good for warping it inwards, warping the elliptical part of it inwards. In this case, I wouldn't want tan H. I would want maybe... basically an equivalent result, though. Let's choose something that warps it a little bit better. Maybe vibration. That's a fun one. So long as I set the values correctly. I think that's maybe a little bit too much. What I was gonna do is I was gonna reduce that down a little bit so we could get the some cool waviness on the edge of our split there, but I don't think it's a great idea. It's kind of a cool filtering effect, but it doesn't actually look good, so. We could spherical it inwards and sort of get a cool plant-like structure here, which isn't bad. Again, a lot in empty space, though, and that's entirely a result of what we just did with the split here. Because back to 0, ta-da! Suddenly you've got a nice little non-empty piece, which in and of itself is kind of cool. All right, so save this, 39. So we can get a sort of cool effect there, but too much empty space for my liking. Splitting it on the Y is not going to do us any good, so... Don't even know why I tried it, honestly. Do it on this side, maybe it would look better. Introduce a little bit of asymmetry into the split. I'm not sure. Again, do I want asymmetry in the split or not? I don't know. Wow, we need either really high spherical or just a Foci of like 2. I'm voting for the Foci of 2. What is this elliptic doing for us again? Oh, it's good for boundary stuff, isn't it? Why not change this to something like a warping? I'm not sure that's going to do too much good, but I could make it do a lot more good. If I go here... changing what it affects. Not by much, though. Not nearly as much as I'd hoped. Let's go back to the elliptic. You feel virtually useless. Just telling you, iterator number 4. I'm not sure why you really exist, except for a tiny tidbit of detailing, which really doesn't matter too much in the end. Nope, no, not that one. That's not gonna work well. Spherical's gonna create a hole every time, isn't it? Yeah. Alright, great. Let's do fun warping. Actually, that's probably just gonna warp it into a line, isn't it? Maybe not as fun as I thought. Yeah. It's too straight to, like, actually notice anything special. Or too much of a plane, I suppose. Let's see, what would be a good option? I mean, Mobius we tried earlier. We got a cool moon effect. I'm not sure I'm sold on it, though. Honestly, the final transform is very powerful for an elliptical split. surprisingly, like, it governs a good portion of what the fractal looks like in the end, so... Like, I say surprisingly, I mean, that's obviously true, but it's especially true for a piece like this. It's basically identical, except... Yeah. Let's just go back to spherical. Good old spherical. What if I threw on a post-transform? We get symmetric breakings if I do this. I'm not opposed to it. Well, if I only edit the real parts, I suppose. Or real parts and imaginary parts. Equivalently? No, it just happened to be the real part. Oh, yeah, I take it back. That makes sense. I thought about it for half a second and realized why that made sense. What if I threw in a... It would get rid of the hole. It's just a bit of a mess, isn't it? Julian would be a little bit more, a little bit easier to work with, I suppose. Yeah, it's gonna be a complete mess if I do this, though. I mean, I can get rid of the hole effectively by creating another hole in the center, but what good does that do anybody? Oh, no. Keep the spherical, not the Julian. Oh, God. All right. Yeah, I think this is probably good for now. We have hit our time limit for today, so I'm going to go ahead and do the usual housekeeping. Stop by tomorrow, we're going to be playing Cluster Truck, we're going to defeat the devil, I hope. I have no clue how that level works, but we're going to figure it out. And then that'll probably end early if I had to guess. It feels like a final boss, so we'll probably just end there. We'll see. Maybe there's more, maybe I'm wrong. If we do end there, we'll probably play some Sea of Thieves. That'd be fun. And then on Sunday, we've got the DOS2 stream, and... yeah, maybe more Sea of Thieves. Yeah, I've tried to think of what would be a good placeholder game, and Sea of Thieves is a fun one. I'm almost Pirate Legend, so we could finish that on stream. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah. Alright, I think that's everything I have to announce for right now. I'll have these rendered and put in the Discord as soon as I'm done making a couple of more tweaks to them, mostly just coloration changes, but yeah, you'll see them soon. Alright, thank you everybody so much for stopping by today. It's been great having you here. Hope you really enjoyed the stream, and I'll see you tomorrow for our video game streams. Until then, bye-bye!